From W.S. Politics in Madison, you're listening to Capital Chats.
Hello, everybody. This is Kate Morton with W.S. Politics here with a Capital Chats podcast brought to you by Spectrum. Today, I'm in the office with my colleague Audrey Thiebert to talk about an interview she did with former U.S. Senate candidate and former Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes. So, Audrey, what did you guys talk about in your interview?
Yeah, thanks, Kate. So me and Mandela talked about his new PAC, the Long Run, which supports historically non-traditional candidates. We also talked about his position as the president of Power to the Polls, which mobilizes low-propensity voters for the upcoming November election, but also year-round.
All right, Audrey, let's get into the interview.
Welcome to Cap Chats. Today I'm speaking with Mandela Barnes, the former Lieutenant Governor of Wisconsin and founder of the Long Run PAC, which supports young candidates, candidates of color, LGBTQ candidates, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the interview. Mandela, thanks so much for joining Cap Chats.
Hey, yeah, thanks so much for having me. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, so I guess just to get started, how did you get started doing this PAC and what inspired you to do it?
Yeah, so the long run was something I started just shortly after my campaign 2 years ago. Well, I guess the PAC started February 2023, so almost 2 years ago. But after my race, I had some time to reflect and think about the things that I wanted to see, changes that I still wanted to happen. And I knew there was no sitting back. That just was not an option for me. There were some really serious problems that we need to address. We need to be more strategic. And with that being said, there were a lot of new candidates that were coming up for the next cycle, as is always the case. And a lot of those candidates were in similar situations as mine, where just a little bit of help, just a small boost might be able to help get them over the edge. And the long run is set up to support non-traditional candidates. I remind people of one of the commercials that ran during my cycle that ended just by saying Mandela Barnes, different. We all know how egregious it was. We know the point they want to get across. But the fact is, the label of different is something that I want to take and run with, because there are so many candidates across the country that will get labeled different, who are or have been already labeled different, and they have an opportunity to go on to make the biggest difference. And we want to be able to not just support them, but help them get support from other entities to help them build their lists. And to date, we supported over 50 candidates across the country, from the state legislature to state Supreme Courts, all the way up to the U.S. Senate. In fact, we supported a guy who is now the comptroller in Houston. So it's all across the board, people that have a whole lot of promise, people who can really, really make a difference in politics here across the country.
Yeah, yeah. And one of those candidates is Senator Tammy Baldwin. How's just curious, how's that going so far? Especially, she's gotten some ads from her opponent, Eric Hovde, criticizing her and her partner. I'm just sort of wondering, how's that going specifically in Wisconsin?
Yeah, well, Senator Ball was sort of a no-brainer. It really fit the mission of the organization perfectly. Plus, charity starts at home. We got to do the work here in Wisconsin, because as goes Wisconsin, goes the rest of the nation. And having been in a really tight race here, we want to make sure that folks know how important Senator Baldwin's reelection is. And I'll say, just like with other candidates, we have been able to raise tens of thousands of dollars for her. But all across the country, we've been able to donate hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is, something, I hate that money is such an important part of politics. I think it's the worst part about it. But we need to make sure that candidates have those resources that they need. And being able to donate, this large sum of money is something I'm particularly proud of. I would say that, a lot of PACs out there are, they're big in nature. Like they are set up to be, large, but the output, the money that actually goes to candidate, isn't always that high. We're quite the opposite. We are a smaller operation, but we want to have as big impact as possible. And having people out there like Senator Baldwin, but also people like Ruben Gallego in Arizona, who was one of our very first Senate endorsements. He got the endorsement of the PAC even when the incumbent senator was still in the race, when Kirsten Sinema was still running. Andy Kim in New Jersey, when people were counting him out, thinking that the first lady was going to be the Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate in New Jersey. Angela Also Brooks is somebody we took a gamble on. A lot of people thought that she was not going to come out of her primary. And those are three races I'm very proud of. I do remember in my own primary where sometimes it was a little bit tougher to get support as a crowded field, and I get that. But I felt like at times we had to fight a little bit harder just to get to the place that people felt like they were comfortable with the campaign. But that's another story for another day. We want to be there for the candidates who are in similar scenarios.
Mm. Yeah, and you mentioned your own primary. You've run a Senate campaign before. What do you think that experience brings to founding this PAC and running it?
Yeah. So one thing it brings is some cautionary tales, and it also puts me in a position to be able to provide some optimism for candidates who may be feeling like things aren't going their way, or they're being bombarded by negative attack ads. They're being bombarded by racist attack ads, by misogynistic attack ads. Uh, whatever the case may be, I try to let my experience help guide other folks who are, dealing with similar sets of circumstances, because, we can give up and walk away, but I don't think any of us ever got in any of our races to do that. So sometimes you just need somebody to, lend a helping hand, somebody to be there, to be a shoulder, to be there to support you and get you through the difficult moments so you can do the work as a candidate and ultimately as an office holder.
Yeah, definitely. And sort of switching topics a little bit, you mentioned attack ads, and recently an ad came out in the third congressional district with Rebecca Cook, in which it said Cook helped get you elected, and you're the most anti-law enforcement candidate in history. You haven't been in office for 2 years. I guess this is kind of a two-part question. First, do you have any connection to Cook? And second, why do you think you're appearing in this ad?
So have not been in office for 2 years, and there are also two ads that feature me in that race. They're both very similar, and they're both very desperate. And the fact that I am on Derek Van Orden's mind is pretty wild when he should be doing his job as United States Congressman. Now, with that being the case, deciding to use me to attach me to this campaign, I've known Rebecca Cook probably since 2019. But honestly, I mean, Becca Cook, she is running her race, and we haven't even contributed in that race, to be honest with you. So it's not beyond me. We all know the depths that Derek Van Orden takes things to, and so it's no surprise that his campaign is running a super cheap, sketchy and desperate operation, but that's just who he is, and that's fine. And with that being the case, people know who he is, and people in that district want someone who's going to fight for them, not fight against the United States government in an insurrection.
Yeah, and again, switching topics. In addition to your work with the PAC, you've been serving as the president of Power to the Polls, which has been building one of the largest turnout operations focusing on Black and Brown voters across Wisconsin. What are you hearing from that voting bloc, and what is their importance in the state of Wisconsin specifically?
So with Power to the Polls, I am focused on creating one of the most impactful mobilization organizations in Wisconsin. It is my goal, my dream to one day have what is similar to the Reid machine in Nevada right here in Wisconsin, where we're not just turning out voters for the sake of turning out voters, showing up 30 to 60 days before an election cycle, but doing the year-round sustained engagement where we're truly invested in the voter and not just vested in getting their vote. And what I mean by that is making sure they know exactly what avenues to take when they have issues and when they have challenges that they're dealing with, how to get the support, the resources, and the support to live happy, healthy, and productive lives. And so Power to the Polls is an organization that doesn't just get people out to vote, but also empowers those that we come in contact with. And it's been going very well to this date. We've knocked on over I should say, for the year, we knocked on over 400,000 doors. We've hired and trained over 200 community organizers in Milwaukee, Racine, Kenosha, Green Bay, and other communities across the state. And we've been able to raise millions of dollars to support these efforts. And we put together an incredible coalition of labor and community organizations, including SEIU, AFSCME, the NEA, the Laborers Union, America Votes, and a number of other organizations who've been doing the work for quite some time.
Mm. Yeah, and the Harris campaign, including Obama, they've been focusing a lot on turning out Black voters, and some have criticized the messaging around that recently. I'm curious what your thoughts on that are, and maybe what sort of messaging you're, encouraging or seeing.
So we are an independent organization. The campaign, the party, do whatever they want to do. We're focused on hyper targeting low propensity voters, the folks who have spotty voting history, the people that may be impacted by the weather, if they're going to show up or not on election day. And we're talking about quality of life issues. We are talking about achievements of the Biden-Harris administration. Many benefits and resources a lot of folks didn't even know they had access to. And we're doing this on the doors. We're doing this through mail. We're doing this through cutting edge digital and social media. And we're doing this, just peer to peer. We are scaling up this program to outlast any election cycle. So while Kamala Harris, Tammy Baldwin are both on the ballot, and our organizers are working day in and day out to get them both elected, our work does not stop on November 5th. Our work effectively begins then, because that's when we start to engage people even more in the process. We will be engaged heavily in the in the state Supreme Court race that's coming up next spring as well.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. That was Mandela Barnes, former Lieutenant Governor of Wisconsin and founder of the Long Run PAC, also the president of Power to the Polls. Mandela, thanks so much again for joining us.
Of course, thank you so much.
All right, Audrey, thank you so much for sharing that interview with us. If our listeners want to learn more about the upcoming 2024 election, they can head to our website at wispolitics.com. In the meantime, I'm Kate Morton.
And I'm Audrey Thiebert.
Thanks for listening to WisPolitics Capital Chats, brought to you by Spectrum.